Everybody, can you hear my voice?
Yes, a little loud, Sam.
Ah, tough shit, you got no choice. So grab a glass and sit back in your chair, 'cause Uncorked is going live to air.
There's a countdown. We're using a new tool, and there's a countdown. Dave, that was exciting.
Yeah. It has more than the numbers on one hand as well.
Usually it counts down from 5, but that particular thing counted down from 6. I don't know what that's all about.
Half a dozen.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Sam. Welcome to Uncorked. I'm Boutique Dave, and my co-host, obviously, is always here, Dr. Whisky. Welcoming you to the world of whiskey and everything else about whiskey and what we do with it and why we're here. Crikey, we are the official podcast, apparently. The official podcast, as recognised by Tales of the Cocktail. Get
Drop
that
it
in. Official podcast also of Boutique Whisky, the global independent bottler. Don't forget to head to our website or our socials, Boutique Whisky, and you can always find me living on Twitter, as usual, at Boutique Dave.
Sweet.
How's things?
It's been good. I mean, we did a podcast, the first podcast of 2021 recently. And since then, we've been told there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We might be allowed out of our cages soon.
I'm looking forward to get out of this room and go and see some friends and some family, even if it's walking around the village or the other villages. Yeah, definitely looking forward to a bit of release. See my eldest daughter, which I haven't seen since end of last year. I know she only lives the next village, but
yeah, but that's crazy to think about. I was moaning to a friend about having not seen my parents back in Canada in a long time, or my wife with her family in Norway, but then realized the people in the UK whose family lives down the road, or up the road, wherever it is, also haven't seen their family. So it's coming. Let's stay optimistic, and the future is bright.
Definitely, I'm ready for it.
Also because it's March, and March. Oh, hello, fella. March brings us a very important thing in the whiskey calendar. You know what that is, Dave?
It's our 1 year anniversary of being locked into our rooms.
Right.
No, not that one.
Well, that's when whiskey sales went really high up. That's right.
Certainly in here they did.
Yeah. Oh God, tell me about it. Healthy lifestyle and all. But no, St. Paddy's Day, I think, is a big deal globally, and it's always a good whiskey topic. And we wanted to sort of touch on it, even though we've had Irish episodes in the past. We had Charlie McCarthy come, and that was, I think, our second episode.
That was our second episode, and we did it in a proper studio, didn't we?
Oh God, that was overdoing it a bit, wasn't it?
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. St. Patrick's Day. It's when everybody looks into their family history and decides, yes, they have Irish ancestry, and we're Irish too, and we're going to celebrate, and we're going to drink Guinness, and we're going to drink whiskey. Woohoo!
But that is an amazing thing. Like, I'd love to talk about that with our guests, but let's introduce them and take it from there. Uncorked is live.
Yeah, to help us celebrate St. Patrick's Day in March of 2021, we've got some perfect guests for you. Let's introduce Alex Chasko from the Teeling Distillery and Stephanie Shen from the Dead Rabbit Whiskey Distillery. Well, it's not a distillery yet, is it? Welcome. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah. Officially, we are the Dublin Liberties Distillery. It's the big umbrella that our branding sits under. So, but I can't speak for what's in the future. Just secret things. Always secret.
That is, in summary, that's the story of Irish whiskey, is coming soon. But where has it been? Let's start with just understanding the two of you. I know that there's the classic joke that whiskey begins as beer, and Alex Chasko, Alex at Teeling, your beginning in booze was in beer, wasn't it?
Yes, I started out in the beer business, and back when it was craft beer. Yes, so our microbrewed beers, even. So yeah, I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, and would have been in the craft beer scene in the '90s back in Portland. working at a little brewery, Bridgeport Brewing Company, which has the distinction of being the first place in North America to brew IPA. So, yes, I started the whole IPA craze over there. Now, we were doing a bunch of different beers at the time. We were doing ESBs and IPAs and porters, basically English cask-conditioned ales. And, got a taste for beer and started looking around at other breweries. Ended up working at Pyramid up in Seattle, and then went and got my master's at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh in brewing and distilling. And one thing leads to another. Met an Irish woman, and I'm living in Dublin now for the last, 15, 16 years, making whiskey, as you do.
Well, you got involved. I mean, you're in the craft microbrewery tradition in America, the boom period in the 90s, and you make your story sound so blasé, but you can, I guess, recognize how many people your story inspired since. I can think of Matt in Seattle. There's many distillers on the West Coast from that craft movement who also went to Heriot-Watt and followed that path. So don't be so modest. Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to be modest. Trying to be compact. I'll go with that. Yeah, no, it's been a long trip. It's been an interesting trip. It's one that certainly took me places I didn't think that I would go to. But that journey of looking for new and unique and interesting flavors has really led to the four corners of the earth, really. And that's been, great. It's been exciting.
Lucky journey to be on, then. It's so cool. Yeah. And then, Steph, how about you? Stephanie Shen, Dead Rabbit, but so much before that. What's your path to whiskey?
So I was a bartender for about 10 years, based in Dublin. I've been in Dublin my whole life. And just really, really got very nerdy about flavor. And, like Ireland, Dublin in particular, has been quite behind the kind of global trends of cocktails. So I feel like, 10 years ago when I first started, there was, I think, one single cocktail bar in Dublin City that was like the bar, and there was very few people that were doing cocktails outside of like a Sex on the Beach or an Appletini or, like a Black Russian. And so the craft cocktail movement kind of started, I would say like 2 or 3 years into my career. And at that stage, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And as I got really into cocktails, one of the things that kind of stuck out to me a lot as a bartender was the fact that I couldn't champion any Irish products. So, like any kind of whiskey base for classic cocktails or even like modern classics, they're typically an American style whiskey. And, occasionally you'll get a Scotch in there as well. And I think for Irish whiskey, we only really had Jameson. That was kind of like, it's the bartender's friend. And we imported everything. So anything we wanted to use, we were importing. And I kind of just reached a point where I was trying to, I was actively looking for more Irish products that we could use. So when the Irish whiskey industry started to kind of grow and explode, it was just really, really awesome to be a bartender and to take pride in that and be like, oh my God, so now I can finally recommend you more than this, 2 distilleries worth of products. So and then the obsession with flavor just kind of, I'm still really, really into cocktails, but I'm also really, really into whiskey. And they just kind of were like, hey, you like cocktails and talking and whiskey. So I kind of just fell into this role and here I am.
Well, thanks for falling into this episode and being here with us. Because I think it's two interesting perspectives. Because obviously the parallel I was just making, being involved, Alex, at the boom of the craft beer, the microbrew movement in the States. And then also getting this Irish whiskey boom that Stephanie's a part of, and obviously you are as well, getting both waves of that. It's such an impressive time, an important time to be involved in drink, and quite cool that you're at the center of it. So Irish whiskey, and you mentioned Dead Rabbit. Teeling's a distillery that started being built in 2015?
Yeah, the distillery was built in 2015, but the company itself formed in 2012. And so when we started out there in 2012, it was exactly what Stephanie was talking about that we were trying to address. It was like, we know bartenders want to use Irish whiskey, but they're saying it's not standing up in cocktails. We can't, you add a mixer to it, you add some sort of a bitters in there, and it's completely gone. So that was the challenge that we really had in 2012 with starting up the Teeling Whiskey Distillery, was how are we going to make an Irish whiskey that's going to be used in these great cocktails that people are coming out with? And the answer to that was... Sorry, the answer was 46% and a rum cask. Yeah, so they boost up the flavor. Let's bring the flavor to the forefront. And I think that's the key also with craft beer. The whole thing with IPAs at Bridgeport was basically tripling the amount of hops that would have gone into a beer previously. And at the time, hops were, $1 a pound. And so why wouldn't you add an extra $5 and you've got a booming beer, right? And the same, I guess you could say, with what we did with the small batch at Teeling. Like, why wouldn't you put it in a rum cask and add an extra layer and dimension of flavor in there? Why wouldn't you? The choice to go to 46% wasn't rocket science. It was laying out whiskey at 50, 58, 46, 44, 42, 40, and then just getting a room full of people and saying, which one tastes best? And everyone saying, I like that one. All right, 46%. People like 46%. Let's take it to some bartenders and see what they can do.
And you don't need a chill filtration either.
Yeah, exactly. So that saves you a couple grand.
Saves you
when
a couple
you're starting a company, that's
money,
nice.
Yeah.
But fundamentally pursuing flavor, because you don't have a distillery. And Steph, it's a similar situation with Dead Rabbit. Don't have a distillery. Teeling doesn't have a distillery yet in 2012, but still has this aspiration to pursue flavor, or to believe that Irish can do more than we've seen so far, and the world wants more of it. So then what's the next step after that?
Well, you start on this journey, right? As soon as you get going down that, golden path, like one step leads to another, and it's really just a matter of like, how far do you want to go? Do you want to take it like in craft beer to, kumquat bubblegum hazy ale, or do you want to go down some other direction, or where do you want to go with it, right? And I think Irish whiskey has a wide future in front of it, with unique cask types, with unique mash bills, with use of different kinds of yeast, with use of different kinds of wood. And there's all sorts of different things that you can do in Irish whiskey, and I think that it has a history that you can draw upon, right? But it also has the freedom to go forward in new directions, which is exciting.
Well, that's what Teeling's done from the beginning. You always had experimental casks. You always were looking to push the limits. You have a little more liberty. I'm choosing that word carefully with double liberties. We have a little more liberty with oak, or with wood, excuse me. No, not oak, but with wood that you can use, and even previous components that you can use, previous contents that you can use. So that must have been exciting to be able to look and say, what we're planning now, we may not even realize for 12, 20 years, but let's test it and see. I mean, that's inspiring.
Yeah, it's been great to see how consumers have responded to that, right? How both bartenders and, whiskey nerds and people that are just, mildly interested in the whole whiskey revolution, how they respond to it has been really amazing.
Well, then, Steph, speaking of bars then, so Dead Rabbit, what's the roots of the Dead Rabbit brand and the whiskey inside as well?
So there's a little small cocktail bar somewhere in New York that you may have heard of, known as the Dead Rabbit Bar. But yeah, so, just a super quick snapshot. It has won almost every award that you can conceive of for a cocktail bar to win. It's best cocktail menu, best cocktail team, best cocktail bartender. Like, they have won a mountain of awards. But they're also, so they are in Manhattan. And what they've done is they, from the get-go, it was set up by two guys from Northern Ireland, Sean Muldoon and Jack McGarry, and essentially they wanted to bring the spirit of Irish hospitality to the US, and, they created this phenomenal cocktail bar. So they're really at the forefront of, the cocktail revolution globally, but also they championed Irish whiskey, which is something that, as I've already mentioned, like 10 years ago, Irish whiskey was pretty much sidelined to, you can do shots of it, it, you can put it into an Irish coffee, or you can have it alongside a beer. And that's kind of like, those were the roles that Irish whiskey had.
Yeah.
And, you know, cocktail ingredients were, you know, for the kind of, you know, again, very heavily focused on rum, on American whiskey, on gin, and on vodka. So I feel like, you know, the Dead Rabbit, as a bar and as a team, the fact that they chose to champion Irish whiskey in this super intense cocktail program that they had, they were introducing Irish whiskey in a completely new way that had never been done before. And I really do feel like, you know, they were a part of what started the movement and the interest in getting people excited about Irish whiskey again. Because it's one thing if you want to make, you know, 75 different variants of Irish whiskey and put it out on the shelves, that's absolutely fine. But, you know, what they did was they were able to generate interest in the category as a whole. And so, you know, after, you know, potentially putting a lot of footfall or consumer focus on other brands, they were like, hey, you know what, if we're really good at cocktails, we really like Irish whiskey, perchance we should make an Irish whiskey. So they're from Northern Ireland, and they knew Darrell McNally, who used to be the master, well, he fulfilled a variety of roles, but he had almost 20 years of experience in Bushmills, and left as head distiller, but they already had known each other, and so it just seemed like the perfect match, you know. So you have Darrell McNally, who has this wealth of Irish whiskey experience, which is quite rare, you know. And in the previous kind of era of Irish whiskey, you had essentially 3 operating distilleries. So, you know, those job roles were limited and the experience within Irish whiskey was quite limited. So to have someone with 20 years of Irish whiskey experience was a big bonus. And then essentially you had Darrell McNally, you know, pushing on the side of kind of history and quality and ensuring that the Irish whiskey was going to be solid. And then you had Jack and Sean and Gillian Vose, their beverage director, and the rest of the team really pushing to ensure that, you know, that the whiskey was correct on its own. So, you know, you've kind of got the best of both worlds, trying to create something that was kind of multifaceted and was good for bartenders, but also good for, you know, sitting at home around a fire and sipping with your friends. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that sounds like the perfect fit for you, doesn't it? Because where your roots were, and also the fact that it is this great ambassador for Irish whiskey in a cocktail bar, and then a brand that embodies that. That's Stephanie Shen all over, it sounds like.
Pretty much me in a nutshell. I swear to God, like, I'm still very, very excited. Like, I got this role. I'm in this role over a year now, but obviously with COVID, it's not the role that it should be because there hasn't been that massive amount of travel and interaction. But yeah, I'm still like a giddy school kid. You know, it's such a phenomenal liquid, but also the fact that there is this freedom where, you know, from a brand point of view, they're like, we want you to explore it from a flavor point of view, as opposed to just like I'm never going to be the person that's wearing a paddy cap going in being like, and now you will take your glass and sniff it at exactly 45 degrees. Yeah. Like, that's not me. I'm going to rock in and be like, hey, have you put soy sauce in your old fashioned yet? You haven't? Oh my God, let's go wild. And then like we can talk about like the flavor profile and the science behind it, but like really it's delicious. I feel like I was kind of made for this role.
The dream. Well, Dave could certainly relate to feeling made to talk about whiskey, but loving it that much as well, and also being trapped, Dave?
Yeah, feeling trapped. Yeah, but I still pinch myself every morning that I've been given this opportunity to talk about boutique whiskey. You know, since I've been here, when did I leave my engineering role? Back in 2016, 17. I can't remember. You know, so yeah, to come from, you know, whiskey was my passion, Steph, and it was just a hobby and doing things on the side. Doing weekend shows and then standing in for people and then doing whiskey clubs and then doing tastings and going on from there. But yeah, to be offered an opportunity to talk about whiskey and certainly with boutique, I mean, it's a whiskey geek's dream because we just bottle anything and everything, you know, not anything, but yeah, interesting liquids. So it's not just single malts.
I think that's how most people started out though in this industry, right? Like, unless Jack Daniels was your uncle or Jim Beam was your father, right? Like you had to start out with a love and a passion for it, and then somebody along the way had to say like, I'm going to give that kid a chance. Yeah, right.
Well, how lucky are we then, all four of us, to be that kid? I'm a poor little Brabazon.
I have some of
Cheers to us
single
being
malt
lucky.
to play with.
Sláinte.
Sláinte. Dave, you mentioned a second ago about boutique bottling everything exciting, and that brought up something that I was thinking about, or I've always thought about Irish whiskey. You know, in Scotch whiskey tradition, there's the independent bottler. We're independent bottlers, you know, quite 21st century independent bottlers, if we can be honest, but that tradition exists, you know, of cask being surplus to distillery needs and having, brokers or other companies have some inventory and bottle it under their own labels rather than the proprietary label. In Ireland, other than the Celtic Whiskey Shop, owned by a Scotsman who, you know, I think 10 years ago or whatever it is, moved over and set up this concept, 2003, I think it started. But, you know, he started bottling and labeling independent bottlings of Irish whiskey. Until then, that really wasn't heard of. With that context, I guess in the U.S., people talk about sourced whiskeys. And Teeling, when it started, all of our whiskeys, and certainly Dead Rabbit as well, would be called sourced whiskeys. But I wonder if we could explore that a bit and see why that shouldn't be a four-letter word, as it is so prominently, I think, in the U.S.
Can I take a crack at that?
Yes, please.
All right.
Yes.
So my take on that would be, having been part of this industry for a couple of decades now, the contraction that Irish whiskey had as it went from 60% of the world's whiskey right down to less than 1%, right? And you went down to basically 1.5 distilleries at the worst part of it there, because Bushmills for a while
you can visit episode 2 if you want to go to Uncorked Whisky Sessions. Episode 2 does the full history with Charlie McCarthy and Dave. Go ahead.
And far more eloquently than I could ever do that, right? But you had that great contraction that took place, right? So all of those, because there were independent brands before in Irish whiskey. Historically, they did exist, right? And what happened is now we've got a point where the industry in the 80s started to take off a little bit with the formation of Cooley, right? And then you had multinationals coming in with Tullamore Dew and all of that sort of stuff, and it's accelerated a lot more in the last 5 years, but it's still very much in the early days there. And so I think that there is a possibility for independent bottlers, and there's a role for that in the industry as it moves forward. But you've had such a contraction of the stock previously, and I think that that's part of the magic of what the Teeling Whiskey Company did, was try to break the rules a bit of like, okay, we don't have to be a well-established brand from the 1800s that's, you know, making, you know, a caretaker, if you will, of an existing international multinational corporation, right? We can go out there and we can be a bit of a disruptor and change things. I think the Dead Rabbit is definitely doing that with regards to the views of the Irish pub, right? And you're right that in the U.S. has happened traditionally with sourcing, and maybe not would have been in the forefront. People would have been buying casks from other people and using it under their existing labels or brands. And I guess to an extent that happens in Scotland too with your blends, right? The whole point of a blend is that you can use whiskey from wherever. You know, you don't say where it's coming from. So I think what's important for me as a whiskey geek, speaking for myself, is that there's a lot of different variety there and shades and oxygen being brought into the category at the moment. And as long as that's happening and people are staying true to whatever their vision is, then I think we're going to be in a good spot in 6, 7, 10 years from now. You know, if it comes to be more Me Too brands, I think we could be in trouble.
Yeah, right. Well, there's certainly a lot of original thinking in the whole Irish boom right now. We'll speak a bit more about other distilleries, but I think Teeling, if we're honest, probably put a lot of wind in the sails of that whole movement. I mean, would it be fair to say, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about this, but to what degree do you think Teeling's supply of old Irish whiskey, because they must have shared it, they couldn't have kept it all to themselves, because it seems like there's a lot of mature sourced new label whiskey that made it to the small hands. And I think that's
I think the Teeling family.
A beautiful
talking
story.
about that. Yes. Speaking of the Teeling family in a broader sense, absolutely. John and his being able to how would he put this? His ability to supply sourced whiskey to new and starting entrepreneurs is a breath of fresh air there, right? And that simply didn't exist previously. The larger players in the past kept it all for themselves and wouldn't allow people to buy 5 or 6 barrels and try their hand at selling a couple thousand bottles or something, right? And I think that Stephen and Jack have taken that maybe in a different direction, but have also said, okay, there's all this new area that we can go into where a blend doesn't just have to be, aged in bourbon casks and what's your malt content and what's your age on it, and that you can go at 46%. You can go in different cask types. You can do, all these different things. And if anything, we've sort of gotten a bit crazy, I feel, in that there's people say like, oh, how many bottlings is there for Teeling? I have no idea. No clue. There was a guy last year that was trying, he's like, I've got 200 and whatever. And I was like, what? 200 and like, and he was looking at me like, is that the right number? Like I had some rolling figure in my head as to like how many different bottlings.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they should be like, everyone probably envisions that they're like a precious baby, that the names and the age and exactly the shelf they were on in the warehouse. Like, this is what I feel like some people really are like,
precious
go
babies.
to a tasting.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Like if you ask a mother, like, oh, that child's very cute, and they're able to tell you, like, they were born 3 seconds past 6 in the morning, and they weighed exactly this much, and, the sky was grey, and, like, mothers remember very specific details about a child's birth that you probably don't really ask for, but they'll give you anyway. So I feel like whiskey people who are really into it when they go to tastings, that's what they want. They want you to be like, tell me exactly about the birth of this whiskey.
But all people really care about is that kid going to piss on my carpet? So would you say, Steph, that there's a different consumer attracted to Dead Rabbit than maybe someone who's putting a Glencairn glass or a Tua glass and nosing it and writing a blog?
I think that there is a wide variety of whiskey drinkers now, which is like amazing. It's beautiful for the category, and it's as an Irish person, I take a lot of pride in the fact that Irish whiskey is growing globally, and it's becoming a more globally recognized brand. But even within Ireland, there are so many people who, I would say 10 years ago, working in a bar, half of the people you'd meet would be like, I won't drink whiskey. And that was like hard line, I will not drink it. Whereas now, there's especially, I would say in the last 5 years, there's been a massive uptake of people drinking whiskey more. So I think that with the variety of people drinking whiskey is also being matched by the variety of liquids that are available. So for me, I feel like if anybody who was like, hey, I don't really like Irish whiskey, my answer would be, you probably just haven't found the right Irish whiskey for you, because it's one of those categories where they're, especially in the past 5 years, and like Alex has been leading the charge with like the diversity within the category, but there is so much diversity going on, and it's a really, really exciting time, because now we're kind of, we're building on the past. And, I know you touched on it on the last episode you had for Irish whiskey with the Irish whiskey technical file and the regulations for pot still and stuff like that. But the Irish Whiskey, Association are kind of like considering changing a couple of things, which, it's just a very innovative, exciting time, because we're still taking from the past, but there's also, so many people who are looking towards the future and doing super strange things. Like, I don't know if you saw recently, there was oh my god, what is the word? Oh, there's a word. Science has failed my brain. There was a research. There we go. There was research into the concept. But there was there's research into, this idea of terroir within the world of whiskey, and about, barley and where it's grown and if that's going to affect the final product. So sorry, that was very rambly, but essentially I think that there's just a massive variety of Irish whiskey now, but it's also been matched with a massive variety in drinkers. So, if you like, one of the Teelings, like say if you were to take small batch and then you were to take like the black pits, the person who likes the small batch might not necessarily like the black pits, and that's okay, because there's enough drinkers now that you can
There you go.
Well, I was just talking to
I owe you €5, Stephanie. Thanks.
You can give it to me after. That's totally fine.
I was literally just talking to Robert Teeling the other day, and I'd like to talk about your distillery actually, and your distillery tour virtually, because that was just incredible going through that. But he was talking about all the different types of malt that you've been using, which is, generally commercial Scotch whiskey is talking about making whiskey for the blends. 90% of Scotch whiskey around the world is still drunk as blended Scotch whiskey, and that figure is slowly falling away as the malts are taken over, and other distilleries are changing the way they look at making whiskey and changing their types of malt and their types of yeast and their fermentation. But Teeling have gone ahead and done all of this within a very short period of time, trying lots of different things, and it's quite a small distillery, isn't it? I mean, it's not a huge distillery. Just 3 stills, two wooden washbacks, and how, was it just 6 stainless steel washbacks?
Four stainless steel washbacks.
4.
Yeah.
So it's pretty compact little distillery there, but you're doing an awful lot of new stuff. Have I frozen or you?
I'm here. I'm back. There's a thing there, but I'm okay now. Yeah.
Oh, right. I thought everyone had frozen it. My internet's been playing up, I must admit, recently. It's just, I lost a couple of meetings this morning and just everyone just froze and I missed what was going on. I'm not sure if it's mine or something else. Going through this, let's talk about your virtual tour of the distillery, because that was bloody interesting, I must admit. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it is great to have the virtual tour, because we would have had normally 120,000 people a year going through the real live tour. So when COVID hit, and right before St. Patrick's Day, which is basically the kickoff of our season, like the season sort of starts at St. Patrick's Day and goes until October, November, sometime around then. And so we knew the impact was going to be massive, and the question was, okay, how do we still engage with people? How do we, because the tour is that touchstone, it is that thing that people come to, like, yes, we are a real live working operating distillery in the heart of the Liberties. It's not fake. We're doing everything the way that it should be done, and we're the big secret I always tell people when they go on a tour is there's no secrets, right? So how do you try and bring that to people's rooms is virtually. You have to do, and thankfully you can do this sort of Google Earth, click your way through the distillery experience, and there's little videos there that'll tell you about what's going on if you want to do it on your own, or if you're lucky enough to be part of a group like Rob there, you can use that as a tool in trying to talk about the process. But for me, it's all about the process. It's all about the mill, and the fact that we set up our mill to be able to take, as you said, a variety of different raw materials in there. So we can use crystal malt, we can use chocolate malt, we can use basically the kind of things that are used regularly every day in the brewing industry to create beer, right? So what goes into your porter and your stout and your brown ale and your red ale and your light lager and all that, we can utilize that technology, which isn't anything new. That's been used for, well, let's be honest, hundreds of years, and that we can take that enthusiasm and that interest in the raw material, right, and then apply it to, and why limit ourselves to the wooden washbacks and the stainless steel washbacks and one or the other? As a proud Oregonian, we had to have Oregon pine in there, right? There was going to be Oregon pine
absolutely
washbacks. I didn't know how that was going to necessarily impact on our flavor at the time, right? When you go back 8 years ago and you're sort of putting it in your head and you're like, okay, we're going to have 2 wooden washbacks. You can see into them. That'll be good for the tour. right? The impact that the lactobacillus and the Brettanomyces has on creating a sour fermentation, and then the impact that has on our actual final spirit, I maybe didn't fully grasp, I'll admit, even with the master's degree in brewing and distilling at the time. The Japanese talk about the microfloral and fauna of the distillery and how that impacts on their whiskey. But I was sort of, you think if you're going to vaporize this liquid, literally vaporize it, right, 3 times, right? You're going to boil it, right? And you're going to condense it back down. And how much of an effect will a little Brettanomyces or a little bit of staph or something in there going to have on the final flavor of your whiskey? I wouldn't have thought much, but actually, it does. Yeah, it turns out it does. Yeah, there's a flavor that Teeling whiskey has because of the little things living in the wooden washbacks, and the stills. That was probably fear or anything else, because we had stock, right, coming from a variety of different distilleries. If you're going to build on that, if I'm going to come out with a product that's using somebody else's whiskey, right, and then in 10 years' time hope to be able to match that, I need flexibility. So our stills can be charged from any one of the vessels, and any one of the vessels can be distilled into. So we could create an endless loop if we wanted to of redistilling everything, right? We've got a huge amount of flexibility and technology in those stills to be able to go down the double distilled route, to go down the triple distilled route, to be able to take something from the very beginning and bring it forward to the very end, or whatever. Now, we haven't utilized, I'd say, 80% of that flexibility there. But that flexibility is there because I knew it's easier to put a pipe in when you're building the stills than it is to put it in after you've already had the stills in place for 20 years. And what that's allowed us to do is to focus on that flavor, because I think flavor is the thing that people really care about. Like, I can tell you, oh, this bottle has got so much in it, there's the blah 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 and the this and the that, right? But when you actually take it and smell it and taste it for yourself, that's when you decide, hey, I like that. That's good, right? And that's both incredibly powerful, right? And it's also a bit of putting yourself out there and hoping that the world's going to come back and say, yeah, I like it, right? So there's an excitement and a bit of fear that's involved in that, I think.
So, yeah, it is. I mean, I just poured the single malt here that I've got, and I've forgotten it. I haven't had it for a little while, I must admit. It's been in the cupboard. I can't remember when I last had this out, but it's I think it's absolutely cracking. This one is from 2015, I think. April 2015.
I remember it well, Dave. I remember, yes, it was a sunny day, I think.
You remember where it was on the shelf?
Yes, yes. That was in the far right corner of the warehouse, which is a bit drier than the left side of the warehouse. Yeah.
And this was the very cap you were wearing, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
See, but
I think I had a doctor's appointment in the afternoon.
I tell you, we do get, as an independent bottler, we get asked that sort of, what cask was it in? Oh, the finest oak, obviously.
But there's something about
only the finest.
Only hand selected, probably. But that is some people want to find something about a whiskey. I'm sure other things too, but in our case, whiskey to grab onto, maybe because maybe people are scared. I think you pointed to that a second ago, Alex. People are scared to take that risk and be wrong, maybe about flavor. Like you're making what you make, put it out there, and leave it to the subjectivity to see if people like it. But if people are left to only pursue flavor and say, oh, is this nice or is it not? Or is it quality or is it not quality? They're at risk of being wrong. So I sometimes am sympathetic to the movement of people saying, oh, what's the fermentation time? Or how tall are the stills? Or, the things we're making fun of.
The angle of the line arm.
At least it's a way to navigate. But it's a way to navigate an intimidating category.
Yeah, and it's also a way for somebody to say, I'm an informed consumer and my impressions are important, and can you please acknowledge that? Yeah.
Well, fuck those people, right, Dave?
I must admit, I used to go around with a notebook and ask all of those.
Oh my god, me too.
but I've stopped doing it so much. Yeah. Uh-oh.
I think it's time for a game.
It
I
looks
know
like
this
it
game.
is.
So we played
Anna?
Anna. It's my anti-Anadram. Anagrams are mixed up letters that form another word, and we've cleverly called this Anadrams. See what we did there? This is our St. Paddy's edition, so it's all related to Irish distilleries or bottling companies in some instances, because their distilleries aren't online yet. But strictly speaking, Irish whiskey brands. There'll be Anadrams. We can give an example to start, and we'll start there. What we will need, though, is to buzz in. How are you going to buzz in? I hope you have a bottle to hand. I know Alex has got a couple. Steph, you got a bottle to hand?
Yes. Sorry. Wait, how are we buzzing in? Are we doing the little...
What's the name of our program? Uncorked.
Oh! I was kind of hoping I'd have to do like a pterodactyl scream or something.
I will not miss it. We'll know when you buzz in if you do that. So look, whatever you're comfortable with.
Oh yeah, do the pterodactyl scream. I'm looking forward to it already. Okay. Can you hear that?
Wait, how do we know whose bottle is whose?
I can hear the different pitches. Dave has got that weasel. He's going for a 20 CL thing, right? Alex, let me hear yours. Oh, lovely. And that, right in between, Steph. Pitch-wise, you're right in between. I think you're at a B flat. I'm just kidding.
A B flat of uncorking.
Yeah. I play a little bit of bottle. All right, let's do it. We'll do run round just to see the nature of the game. We'll show you an Anadram, which are, in this case, is baking gel. Remember, of course, people are listening to this, not necessarily seeing it. The first one is baking gel. This podcast is available to stream from most of your podcast platforms or to watch on YouTube, Uncorked Whisky Sessions. Baking gel is which distillery? It's currently Beam Suntory, I think. That's the word I see in there. I think it has the old Tullamore still in it. It has a water wheel.
You're begging. Thanks for all the clues.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that was the warm-up round, trying to help. I'm getting nervous.
That was the easy one, huh?
That was the easy one.
I feel like my palms got sweaty.
Look, our colleague Roz isn't here. Dave isn't very competitive. I'm super chill. Don't worry. This is not competitive. Okay. It's for entertainment purposes. But we all know Kilbeggan, cool little distillery and a lovely spot to visit, actually.
It's very nice, yeah.
An interesting story background, community-based background too, with reopening it as a museum, whatever it was in the 80s. So it's kind of, cool spot. Anyway, let's continue to the next one. Golden Laugh, Golden Laugh, Laugh. Now that is... Oh!
I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely you, Steph. Don't worry. That's you.
Oh my god. Oh, I forgot. Oh no. Glendalough. Oh my god.
It. Very well done.
Aye.
Yeah. Glendalough, County Wicklow.
Paddock.
Beautiful gin, award-winning gin, right? 2011, but a younger distillery. They bottled some aged stock, probably from you guys, and I think some of their stuff is available now. 7-year-old and maybe some no-age statement stuff from their own distillate. But another cool new wave Irish distillery, and that's what we're talking about. Let's move along. Good job there, Steph. You're on the board. The next one is Farted Row. Farted Row. Farted. Oh, I think that was Dave, was it?
That's got to be the terroir.
The terrorists?
It's got to be terrorist. It's got to be Waterford, surely.
It is Waterford Distillery. That's right. The farting, what was it? Farting something.
Yeah, I like the name of that.
Distillery. So yeah, terroir. There's plenty of that being covered. The blue bottle, you've seen it. You're trying to make sense of it. You've heard people debate about it online. Just taste it. That's what matters.
All that matters, taste.
Next one, Mild Tone, Mildtone. This is an Anadram for an Irish distiller.
Mild Tone.
Pretty sure you've been a customer of it in the past.
Middleton?
That's absolutely right. I didn't hear your cork. I'm sorry, Alex, but that is the Middleton Distillery.
You need to just start screaming like a pterodactyl.
Sorry. More Frobby Crow.
So I don't know. we really should, when we edit this, John, we should overlay the scores, because that would look cool. Then I'd be able to keep track. But I think it's 1-1, isn't it? Well done, everyone.
Yeah.
Next one is disinherit liberals.
Ooh.
Lots of letters there. Disinherit
There's a lot.
liberals. Disinherit liberals. Yeah, I think Dave's in with.
Is that the Liberties Distillery?
You're missing.
I'm missing everything. Life, normally.
Everything. Confusing though, wasn't it? Isn't that confusing?
Wow.
Aye.
That was very confusing.
Because I think liberties is what you would guess. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
no, it's Hibernia. These guys it's a bottler, but you will have seen it under the brand Hyde, probably, depending where you live in the world.
Yes.
And it's set up, I think 5 years ago or something, maybe, by a couple brothers, Connor and Alan, in West Cork. Cool bottlings and something fun to try, for sure. Under the name Hyde. Hibernia. Okay, next. Lush Limbs.
Lush limbs.
Lush Limbs.
Oh.
Dave's in.
Oh.
I think you beat you, bud. Sorry. Dave, come on.
Pterodactyl. That's got to be Bushmills.
It is Bushmills, but Dave, come on, be a host. Be a gentleman.
I want to hear more pterodactyl screaming. That's what I'm waiting for.
I'm not even doing a good pterodactyl scream. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm letting pterodactyls down everywhere.
That's okay. Not as much as Alex is letting himself down. I think he's kicking himself about that last one.
I'm getting confused by the horse there.
That's our distraction. Yeah, that's my lovely horse. From one of our labels, isn't it, Dave?
It certainly is. I'm wearing the t-shirt.
All right, get a bit of a show.
Well, I'm wearing Irish colors. It's St. Paddy's Day. All right. That's right. It was Bushmills. How about this one? Birdie Bulletins. Birdie spelled Birdie. Bulletins. Dave was pretty close to this earlier, I think.
Oh.
Come on.
No,
That's
never
right,
mind.
Steph.
No.
Steph, do it.
No, it's not.
It is.
Oh, double liberties.
Trust me. Even she knew it. Right? Okay, you're throwing me off.
Oh, God.
Right. I think you're right. I hope you're right. You are right. Dublin Liberties. Well done. All right. 2-1-2 on the board, I believe. I could be wrong, but let's see. Let's go to the next one. Another Anadram. The highlight of our show, the silly game. This one's Law Bracket. Lawbracket. Oh, Steph is in. Definitely taking a strong lead, tying Dave. Let's see what's happened here. Steph.
That's brilliant.
Blackwater.
Blackwater, yeah.
Blackwater.
Brilliant.
Very good.
Yep.
Oh, they've been doing some really interesting. I was talking to them a little while ago, Peter Mulryan, and the green malt that they've been trying to process.
Well, that's a name that comes up a lot, isn't it? Peter Mulryan. So his role in sort of the Renaissance as well. That book, you bought his book recently, didn't you, Dave? Whiskey's.
I have got a couple of his. I've got one of his books. I've got an old copy of it, but I need to get the update one. Yeah, definitely have it somewhere in here.
I've got that old book myself.
It's it really is a cracking book.
Yeah.
But the distillery's still young, right? It's like 6 years old, but do they have their own whiskeys out now, or is it just still Velvet Cap?
No, it's still just the sourced. Yeah, but they're getting close to 3-year-old now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting. The future
Oregon
again.
distiller there too.
Oh, is it? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're distillers from Oregon. Yeah.
Crafty.
We're taking over the world slowly. One distillery.
You're going from
One distillery at a time.
So from one, you wanted to get out of the climate in the west coast of the United States, the Northwest.
Yeah, it's far too perfect there. Where can we? Oh, I know. We'll go to the banks of the Blackwater River in Ireland. That'll be perfect.
Next one in the Anadrams game is Oink Well. Oink like a pig noise, and well like the deep water source.
Oh, that's the best.
Steph, that's you, I think.
Steph is really getting competitive now.
killing it with cologne.
Very good.
Hi, very good.
That's an adorable little farm distillery, isn't it? You guys been?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. I really love all of their products.
How far? They got a
And
warm
they just
condenser.
released
Go ahead.
that kind of gently rested poaching as well. Like this week, the Quigga. Yeah. So that should be another funky thing to try.
Yeah, awesome. I think is that the poaching that Charlie gave us when we recorded this about a year ago, Dave.
Oh, I don't know which one he gave us, but yeah, he brought a suitcase full of different
Or
Irish
it's
whiskies.
Boan. Wasn't the Boan
Sorry?
one?
It might have been, yes.
Boan?
Yeah. I think
Well,
you're right.
it wasn't the one that comes from under his mother's sink that the policeman would bring round. No.
No, we wish
No.
for that. That would be right up our street. But yeah, Killoan with the worm tubs, worm condensers, and 50 cl bottles. They're after your heart, Dave.
They are after my heart. Yeah, definitely. Worm tubs, 50 cl bottles.
Oh, and they made this
Perfect.
glass, didn't they?
I've got mine
Isn't that
downstairs.
bad?
It's the tour. Yeah.
In combination with someone else? I don't know.
I'm certain. Yeah. No, that's right. They're not glass
Like, I don't
professionals.
know if they put that out themselves.
Probably. Let's move on. Cow posturer. COWPOSTURER. Cow. What? This doesn't look right to me.
Yeah.
Cow posturer. I can't figure that out. Nope, I'm struggling.
God.
The cow and the
So
horse
bizarre.
that's doing it for me there.
I'm just trying to throw you off.
Come on, save us,
psychedelic
Dave. Save
imagery.
us.
Oh, what's the name? Oh,
I think we're running out of time, people. The butter is gonna come. It's coming at you. Here it goes.
oh,
Ah,
I
Howard
was trying to think of
Quartz.
the name. No.
cut,
I was
let's
like,
go
what's
for
the
the
one with the
pterodactyl
waterfall?
squawk again.
Is that what you said? Oh, I missed that. Is that what you said? What's the one with the waterfall? Yep. So it's on a beautiful estate. I don't know much about the distillery at all, actually. What's the brand they release as though? It's not called Power Score. It's with an F.
For
isn't it?
Cullen. I think it's for
Oh, Fern,
Cullen.
Fern Cullen?
Fern Cullen, sorry.
That's
Fern
it. So
Cullen.
this is
Yeah.
so this is the where Noel Sweeney went after Kilbeggan and okay.
Exactly, yeah.
And have we tried any of it? I haven't. I don't think.
Yeah, it's lovely whiskey.
No,
Yeah, very good.
It's really lovely.
Oh, that's good to hear. So exciting. The future of Irish. The future is Irish and female. All right.
Yay!
Bail his gal. Bail his gal. Let's bail his gal. Ooh, this is going to be a hard one. Oh, you know, it's got to be that crazy. I can't even pronounce it. Gaelic name though, guys. If that's a clue, I don't know.
Gaelic name.
I think it's on the west coast.
I feel like I should know this.
Oh yeah. I couldn't even spell it, but it's a bunch of things that would make a Canadian embarrass himself with trying to speak.
Go on, you got it. Come on, Dr. Whiskey. How do you pronounce it?
I'm gonna go with sleeve
crikey.
leg. Sleeve leg.
That's close enough. I mean, I
well,
say
so-
that as like the only Irish person. People are going to come for me and be like, Steph. But yeah, it's like sleeve leg. That's how I would say it, but
Sleeve leg. Okay.
yeah. But like you got the BH sounding like a V, so I feel like that's kind of the hardest part of that battle.
I've learned something from
And
all
what you
those.
see now, people will track
St.
me down
Patty's
for my
parties.
terrible Irish pronunciation.
Look, all
They'll come after
interaction.
me before they come after you, Sam.
That's fine. Exactly. All engagement is good engagement. If it's at your expense, even better. This has been another episode. Oh, no, sorry. Another game of Anadrams. We'll keep talking, but I think that's the end of the game. I think at the end, Steph was on top, Dave, by 1.
Oh, at least 2, I would have thought, and extra points for the squawking.
Yeah.
Well done. Well
I knew it
deserved.
would come in
Pterodactyl
handy
impressions.
someday.
I knew my pterodactyl screaming would come in useful one day. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I've been practicing for so long.
I only got the easy ones. You got all the difficult ones. Before we started recording, I mean, this is celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and it's a year ago that St. Patrick's Day really was. We really never got to celebrate St. Patrick's Day properly last year, but it is that day where the whole world seems to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Certainly across the states, rivers turn green. Everyone looks, certainly over here, we all put Guinness hats on and we go out on pub crawls, and we all look for that little bit of Irish heritage and pretend we're Irish for the day and take days off and go on pub crawls and all that sort of stuff. Why would you think that is? How has that happened, this marketing of St. Patrick's Day? I mean, we don't do anything for England on St. George's Day. There may be a few. There is, St. Andrew's Day, St. David's Day was at the beginning of March.
Yeah.
Not a lot, people.
St. Andrew's Day.
Not a lot happened. Yeah, not a lot happens, but St. Patrick's Day right around the
global
world.
affair. So true.
I actually, because I knew this was St. Patrick's Day themed, so I was like, as the Irish person on this call, I feel like I need to get some St. Patrick's Day facts. So I feel like I might have an answer for this. So first and foremost, I would like to say that in general, because we're an island nation, there has always been this kind of idea of us being the underdog, which is always very appealing to everybody anyway. Like if you're watching like Rocky or anything, it's like you're cheering for the underdog. You want that guy to win. So like, unfortunately with St. George, he's just not the underdog. He's like the very angry, aggressive dog. So, people, I feel like they want to, support the Irish because we are this tiny little island. But also, even though Ireland has technically been considered neutral in a lot of different conflicts, the Irish have still enlisted within different armies, and you would have found Irish soldiers kind of all across the globe. So the first ever St. Patrick's Day parade was actually in the US. And so for a long time, they thought that the first parade was in, I think it was 1737, and it would have been a group of Irish soldiers that were deployed within the British Army, and they would have celebrated it because they missed home. And they were just like, well, we just want to celebrate being Irish. But actually, the first ever St. Patrick's Day parade was in Florida. Of all places, it was in Florida. So it was a place called St. Augustine in Florida. I do not know geography, so I don't know if it's a real place or not. But this is what the internet told me, and the internet would never lie. So apparently there was... Apparently there was a Spanish colony that was based in St. Augustine, and there was an Irish soldier who had been fighting all across Europe, and eventually he got moved to this Spanish colony, and then he decided that he wanted to join the priesthood and become some kind of priestly figure. So I think he was a vicar, and essentially when he was based in St. Augustine, he introduced St. Patrick to the locals there, and they adopted him as, so St. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland, but they also adopted him as the protector of their cornfields. And so they actually had the first ever St. Patrick's Day celebration in 1601, and they celebrated with like the usual festivities. They had food, they had wine, they had, music, but they also just like casually had like cannons going off as well. Because, the protector of your cornfields obviously deserves like, a buckload of cannons going off. But yeah, so apparently the first ever St. Patrick's Day parade was in Florida, and it would have been, in a Spanish colony. So I feel like, with the kind of decimation of Irish kind of all over, but unofficially. So it wasn't the Irish army that was bringing this. It was Irish people that would have been within other European armies. And they just kind of brought this spirit of we miss home, and this is a really cool thing. And also you can't really... I feel like St. Patrick is like one of those figures that, he didn't really do anything bad, unless you're like a pro-snake person. And, you don't, like, unless you fall into that category, I feel like there's nothing that you could be like, oh, that's St. Patrick, I don't trust him. In general, he was like, he's a pretty cool guy. He came over here, he got rid of the snakes, like, he was grand. So I feel like that's probably why, so many people are so excited, because he's a figure that you can kind of get behind and you don't have to feel guilty about it, Unless you're Catholic and then you just feel guilt all the time.
That's fine. It's 24/7, yeah. Alex, what do you think? Do you have a hypothesis or a read?
I think it is that diaspora. I think it is that widespread Irish tribe that probably made it big. I know that in Ireland, the St. Patrick's Day actually was one of the days traditionally where the pubs were closed. And I find that ironic that now it's Christmas Day that the pub is closed, and Good Friday used to be the big one that the pub was closed on. And everyone would be upset why is the pub closed on Good Friday? All right, well, actually Good Friday they didn't care about before, but it was St. Patrick's Day that the pub was closed on traditionally. So that's an interesting. I don't know how does it flip, right? How does it go from dry completely to super booze fest? I'm not sure how that happened, but
I think it's a celebration of being Irish, like you were saying, Steph. It's about Irish music, Irish stories. I mean, I remember I worked in the Far East for a number of years, and there was an Irish bar in the little town where I was living, and on St. Patrick's Day you headed there, and someone got the banjo out, and someone had the fiddle out, and there was music going, and we were drinking black stuff and drinking. But it was a celebration of being Irish. There was Irish food, mince and tatties and stuff like that coming, that sort of thing. But this is in the Far East. I mean, normally everything's rice and fried stuff. But yeah, there was someone would always bring the banjo out. Someone would always bring a fiddle and off it would go. And someone would have the wheat drum. I can't remember what that's called, but the tambourine. Yeah, the tambourine without the cymbals.
The barron.
Yeah, that one. It was always someone have a whistle. Yeah, it was always a great crack. I mean, I loved it. Yeah, always enjoyed being Irish on the 17th of March.
But see, that's the thing. So does everyone. It's global. It's interesting. There's something that resonates. Whether it's maybe it is something about that underdog thing you mentioned, Steph. That everyone loves the underdog, but feeling that whatever adversity the Irish might have faced, that we can all take hits and stay cheery and have a good night out, however we reduce it or translate it in our corner of the world. It's resonated. There's Irish pubs all over the world. Everyone knows what St. Paddy's Day is all over the world, which is just an incredible thing for a small island nation, like you said. And I think we could probably pontificate and throw around stupid ideas about this for a long time. And I always say episodes.
Let's do that.
So let's. But then some poor bastard have to. Because I always say we could talk forever, but an hour is approaching, and then I think, well, then some poor bastard has to listen to it, so we won't talk forever. But that's coming somewhat to it. So listen, happy St. Paddy's Day whenever you're listening to this, and to you guys in a few weeks. I just wanted to wrap by sort of talking just quickly about the future of Irish whiskey, not necessarily in your corner of it, not necessarily with your brands, but just because we have seen St. Paddy's Day become this ubiquitously, this event, global event, so strongly associated with Irishness. And Irish whiskey, until very recently, meant really one or two things. There were really two options around the world. That's what Irish whiskey meant. And now with this pursuit of flavor and with innovation and with sharing and this whole new movement of various different types of drinkers and also various different types of producers, what's the future of Irish whiskey look like for you? Do you think, can this grow forever? Or is there a ceiling? How's the future going to look?
I think it's looking pretty good at the moment. Yeah, I think that what I go back to is that craft beer experience, right? And I think what happened with craft beer is that people woke up one morning and realized that beer could be more than just this fizzy yellow drink, and that there was pale ale and porter and Hefeweizen and all this wonderful world of beer out there, right? And if you're a beer drinker, you can go and you can go to your local store or off license and you can find 60, 80 beers. That's not unusual, right? I think that's going to happen it is starting to happen with Irish whiskey, right? And it's not just Irish whiskey, it's whiskey all over the world. And that people are starting to realize, well, whiskey doesn't just have to be at 40% alcohol. It doesn't have to be, straw golden color. It doesn't have to be one-dimensional as far as its flavor profile. You can have all of these other different things in there. You can have a bit of peat if you like it. You can have a bit of caramel toffee. It can be real floral, fruity. It can be grassy. It can have all these other different things. And what's been really exciting that I've seen from my personal view in the last 8 years is that bartenders can then take that and can go and run with it. And so you can start to see Irish whiskey in daiquiris. You can see Irish whiskey in tiki drinks. You can see Irish whiskey in White Russians. You can see it in all sorts of different ways in which bartenders are taking Irish whiskey and using it in new and unique and interesting ways. And I think that's what the Dead Rabbit has sort of shown us, a bit of a lighthouse, if you will, of where we can go. But once you start to think outside the box and look for new things, right, the world's your oyster. And I guess in the same way that like craft beer is that genie that's out of the lamp, I think Irish whiskey has just been uncorked, and that there's going to be a huge, yeah, there we go. You like that, guys?
Sound bite. Someone time code that.
Yeah, I think it's bright. Are there going to be people doing stupid stuff? Yeah, of course. Is it going to be the end of the world? No. But like, there's a lot of different directions that we can go in, and Irish whiskey is a great canvas. It takes on a lot of different flavors, and you can do unique things with it. You can mix it with different mixers and bitters, and there's a lot of different ways that you can consume it. So I think the future is bright.
Dave, you probably agree, right? We at Boutique, we are independent bottlers of the world of whiskey, and it's the best time in the history to be in that sort of game.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the amount of great whiskey being made right around the world, it just blows me away every time I meet a new distiller and taste this.
Yes, a little louder, Sam. Tough shit. You got no choice.
Toby Cutler, who's our head buyer, wanted to make sure I asked him. If you have
So grab a glass and sit back in your chair.
We might have a few in the dark corner there of the warehouse. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, definitely boutique Teeling. Yeah, it rolls off the tongue.
Why not?
Boutique Teeling, yeah. Yeah, Dave. So we're bottling. Steph, do you have any closing words or thoughts about the future?
Nope. Oh, I mean, it's just exciting. I think that Alex very eloquently put together the future is really bright. As someone who has been living in Ireland, working in the bar scene, like seeing the growth, and even now that I'm kind of on the other side in the world of whiskey, I just think that I feel like we're just on the cusp of an explosion. We're kind of at that point where you can feel the energy that hasn't been within the world of Irish whiskey for a very long time. And it's reflected in, the variety of people who are drinking now, but also if you're looking at the branding of new whiskies and stuff, like it's no longer aimed at a specific type of drinker. It's just like a breath of fresh air. So it's very, very exciting. I'm very excited.
I think we all are, man. It is really exciting. I raise a glass to the whole industry and the future of Irish whiskey, because I think there's a lot of cynics and naysayers and whiskey nerds and folks who put their opinions online who maybe say, well, who's going to be drinking all this Irish whiskey in the future? Well, they've been wrong before. They were wrong about craft beer. It's a global phenomenon. They were wrong about single malt. Single malt's a global phenomenon, and there's new drinkers all the time. And I think Irish too, whether you're the smallest distiller or a Great Northern, the future will be in someone's belly. Let's hope. So let's drink to that.
Sláinte.
Cheers, sláinte.
Sláinte.
All right, Dave. We're bottling the world. We've done. What did we do? We did a rye series from distilleries all over the world. We did World Series, and our next series relates to our next episode, right? We're recording later this week. Down Under.
We are. The next series will be all from Down Under, so a whole series of Australians. Malts and a rye, which I'm really excited about. That's some cracking stuff coming from Down Under.
I can tell you're really excited. Do you want to convey that to us again? You want to take that from the
top? Absolutely. There was some bloody cracking stuff. I'm in love with that rye, that Belgrove rye. I mean, I'm absolutely blown away by that, and certainly the distiller there was just amazing. Talking to him was just brilliant. That's one of the best times I've had, just chatting to him, and all the stuff that he's been doing, making everything. I just get out there and do it. That Aussie style. And I work with a load of Aussie boat builders, and it's just get out there and go and do it. You know, don't fuck around. Just get out there and do it. And,
yeah,
that whole attitude of rather than knocking down, bringing people up all the time. That's what there's a lot of banter and piss taking all the time, but it's always about building up rather than pushing down. Which I always loved about working with the Aussies and partying. And the key reason the Aussies partying, that's what I remember most about. Work hard, party hard. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we'll talk more about Australian whiskies. We're bottling 9 of them, aren't we?
Yes, 8 or 9. 8, 9.
I should have checked my notes, but either way, we want to talk about it with Drinks Adventures. That's our next episode, so tune in then. We'll share this ahead of St. Paddy's Day. If you're listening to it, thanks for listening to it. Subscribe and like and all that stuff, and I'll send you a thank you bottle. No, Dave will send you a dram. How do we bribe, Dave?
I'll give you a big hug next time I see you.
I'll take one of those. I will like
everyone
and subscribe
will.
for a hug. Oh, everyone will. That is
everyone wants a hug at the moment. Who doesn't want a hug?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, Alex, Steph, I want to hug you both. Thanks a lot for being here today. Thanks for taking the time. This has been Uncorked, and as always, I've been Dr. Whiskey.
And I've been Boutique Dave.
You've been Alex, you've been Steph. Thanks, guys. Dead Rabbit and Teeling. Sláinte.
Sláinte.
Cheers. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.